Ghosts at the Old Library. The Only, written and read by Adam Farrer.
You probably already know about the boy who died here, but I'm guessing you don't know all the details, or what details you do know have likely been expanded upon. It's been over 30 years now, close to 40. That's left a lot of room for exaggeration. I imagine there's a lot more blood in the version you've heard, and far more people mourning the boy's passing than was actually the case. Well, I'm going to save you some time by letting you know that I have all the details, because the boy who died is me. I could have built up to this information, I know, strung you along, then made you jump out of your bones with a big reveal, but I don't believe in wasting time. You don't get much of it. Not when you're alive, at least. Personally, I have a lot of it now, but you don't, so yes, I'm dead, and honestly, it's a struggle. At least I died in this building. That's something to be grateful for. I'm not trapped between worlds in a sewer or a grain silo or something. I'm in a library. I know it's not a library anymore, but it'll always be one to me. And when I was alive, it was my place of choice. I was here so often that the librarians would tease me that I haunted the place. But these days, I guess I can't be allowed to have a problem with it. This place was already the centre of my world. My home life was rough. High school was worse. But here I could distract myself, filling my head with words, facts, and details of places I one day hoped to escape to. Wonderful, far-off places that likely had libraries of their own. I'd sit at a table in the corner over there, burrowing in with books on all kinds of subjects, along with an encyclopedia and a dictionary for looking up references. Alone and transported. The thing I've always liked about libraries is that they allow you to be on your own and quiet without judgment. In this setting, loneliness, having no one to talk to, comes to resemble a considered choice you've made, rather than a terrible, crushing thing that is happening to you. The rules were different in this place. Solitary behaviour was a virtue. Silence, study, the accumulation of knowledge. In the library, I was not tragic. In the library, I was not a figure of fun or a loser. I was in context. Now I'm not sure what I am, what I'm supposed to be, except, it seems, a ghost. I'm guessing that's what I am, a ghost. I can't see what else I might be. But people see ghosts, don't they? In almost 4 decades, no one has noticed I'm here. Not one person has pointed a finger in my direction and cried out in terror. But I'm a dead person trapped in a building, so let's not avoid the obvious. One thing you might not know about ghosts, and I didn't for all my reading, is that while you might die in your youth, your brain keeps aging, or whatever you call the place where a ghost has its thoughts. The essence of a brain, I suppose. The radiation of it. I'd always understood that a brain was a blancmange full of chemicals and electricity that, once the physical form of it was gone, the thoughts it contained would vanish too. But here it is, still going. When I died in 1987, I was 15. So effectively what I am now is a 50-year-old man imprisoned in a teenager's body, which is exactly as dreadful as you might imagine. And it gets worse, because I'm stuck in the clothes I died in too. My school uniform. The upside is that I can at least touch my clothes. But they're the only things I can interact with. When I first realised I was dead, I had quietly hoped I might at least get to be a poltergeist and make people pay attention to me by hurling objects around. But no. When I first realised I was dead, I'd quietly hoped I might at least get to be a poltergeist and make people pay attention to me by hurling objects around. But no, all I can touch is a uniform I despise. Yes, I could take it off, but the sight of my ghost body disgusts me. Assuming you can't see me, I'll describe it to you. It's transparent, as you might expect, but glossy and rose-coloured, kind of like a jelly, but of the murky type you might expect to find inside a pork pie. And I can see other bits of me through it, which despite the years I cannot get used to. One day, not long after my death, I succumbed to sadness and frustration, tearing off all my clothes and thrashing about this room, raging, before collapsing on the floor in a sobbing heap, right there by the door. Do you know what it's like to curl up into a ball, shrieking at your own plight, then open your eyes to discover you can clearly see your own feet and compressed buttocks through your belly? Well, I do. And it's awful. So these days, I remain dressed, protecting myself from at least that horror. And through these clothes, I maintain a sense of time and order, altering how I wear them. Aware of the finite number of variations available to me, I treat myself to one outfit change a week, each Sunday, when I might roll up a trouser leg or tie my blazer around my waist. This control is all I have, and who knows how long I'll be here. I have to pace myself. But I'm sorry. I promised not to waste your time and to tell you all about my death. Now here I am talking about jelly and ghost fashions. I'll get to it. It was mid-December, so naturally it had been raining. One of those days when the rain beats so hard it feels like it will pin you to the ground. It drives people to seek refuge. And that's when they arrived, bursting in through the doors, all noise and lack of decorum. The boys who didn't belong here. 4 of them, all from my year. To say these boys made my high school days hard was an understatement. And now here they were in my sanctuary, breaking all the rules, unshushable, their clothes rain-soaked to the point of appearing oil-slicked. They shook themselves and their coats fluttered like black wings. If I was in the mood to be dramatic, I'd say they looked like a murder of crows. And I am in that mood, so this is exactly how I want you to think of them. Not least, to prepare you for the fact that one of these boys will kill me. There was a moment when I could have avoided what happened. If I'd stayed smuggled away in my little corner, they might have just hung around until the rain calmed, or got ushered outside by a librarian and never seen me. But instead, I panicked and fled to the toilets, where I knew there were cubicles to hide in. It was this flash of movement that betrayed me. As I rose and made my way to the gents, I turned to look at the boys, and one of them spotted me. Mike, the tallest of them. He smiled, nudged the others. Then they all headed my way with purpose. I darted into the toilets and inside one of the 2 cubicles, locking the door behind me. Then I stood there, feeling foolish, having made things easy for them by capturing myself. I soon heard scuffing and laughter on the other side of the door as the lads all filtered into the toilets and across the floor. I held my breath. There was a knock on the cubicle door. I considered my options, doing a fake voice and pretending to be an elderly man, perhaps screaming to raise alarm, but instead I unlocked the door and opened it to find Mike standing directly outside, towering over me and smirking, the other lads peering around him, excited to see what he'd do with me. What I focused on was their hair, which was rain-slicked down over their foreheads, water dripping onto the lino. This made me think of the thing I'd always been most scared of at school. Bogging. The act of shoving someone's head into a toilet bowl and pulling the flush. This, I believed, was my fate and my worst-case scenario. "Why are you hanging out in here?" Mike asked. "Are you a perv?" The other lads laughed, but I didn't respond, too busy deciding on my escape plan. My only hope here was to use my size. I was smaller than all of them, and quick when I needed to be. I feigned moving to my left, then darted to my right, making for the door that led back into the library. This move fooled the other lads, but not Mike, who stopped me with a firm hand to my chest. The force of this caused me to slip sharply on the wet floor and fall onto my side, where my neck came into brisk and violent contact with the rim of the toilet bowl. Such a fast and ugly movement, and to my ears the loudest thing I'd ever heard, like fireworks in my head. Whatever it sounded like to the boys, I know it horrified them. I couldn't see their faces, but I know they were scared. There were shouts, a scream, swears of panic and the sound of a hurried departure. They had wanted fun, and now they had nothing of the sort. Instead, they had something horrifying and irreversible. To their credit, there were calls for help, but I was almost gone by that point. My breathing was becoming laboured. I was paralysed. My movements restricted to involuntary twitching. My only view was that of the grubby rim of the toilet bowl. Having read Gray's Anatomy of the Human Body, I know that I likely broke several of my cervical vertebrae, and quite possibly my hyoid bone too. Something was restricting my breathing. I couldn't move or cry out. I just lay there, bogged. But not for too long, though. I didn't have much time to consider what was happening before there was blackness. When I awoke, if you can call it that, I was standing alone in the toilets. It was daylight, and I was confused. And ever since then, that's where I've begun each day. I don't sleep, I don't rest, but at some point, I reset, and I'm back in the toilets, in the spot where I died, waiting for someone to come in so I can slip past them through the open door. I can't walk through walls or doors if they existed when I died, though I can walk through that new wall over there. This was a novelty for a while, but I grew bored of it by the end of the 90s. I can go anywhere inside this building, but I cannot step outside. Head further than the foyer, and I feel a pressure, as if I've collided with the walls of a bouncy castle. So this building has become my life now. My death now. I don't even know what to call it. I'm just here, waiting. For a while, I waited for God, but there's been no sign of them. Or any other ghosts, for that matter. I don't understand why. I suppose that in 300,000 years of human history, no one else has died in this specific location. A caveman wasn't crushed to death by a mammoth here, back when it was an open plain. No one was shot by a highwayman and bled out where the reception desk now stands. I've seen people collapse here, but they've always been rushed off to hospital before anything drastic happened. Perhaps they died in the ambulance on the way and are now stuck on the A6 in the spot where they expired, trapped forever in that place while vehicles rushed past them. Or maybe they're still in the ambulance. Are ambulances crammed with ghosts? Do hospitals contain thousands of them? When I think of that, I suppose I'm better off here. Of course, I've considered the alternative. That, for some reason, there is just me. That I'm the only ghost. When I start to think this way, I wonder about what will happen in the future, when this building is eventually demolished. Will I disappear with it? Or will I still be here? In 100,000 years, when the planet is scorched and all trace of humanity has been wiped away, will I still be trapped in the footprint of this building, milling around in my school uniform, my 150-year-old brain driven mad by lack of stimulation? If the sea levels rise, will this land be flooded, leaving me standing at the bottom of an ocean in complete darkness? Will I still be here 4 billion years from now when the planet explodes? Will I be left floating in space, suspended in the location of the toilets? If the sun consumes the planet, will I be trapped at the heart of it, rolling up my trouser leg inside a burning ball of hydrogen and helium that itself will explode? When does this end? When will I pass over? Is there somewhere to pass over to? Is there an end to this? I think what I want to know is that, at some point, there is an end, because it's becoming unbearable. The loneliness, the lack of connection. I think about this a lot, although I try not to. Some days I think about it until I wish I was dead. Then I remember that I already am, so I scream, out of frustration and horror and the hope that someone might finally notice me and call for an exorcist. I know that none of you can hear me. Still, I like to think there's an outside chance something I'm saying will break through. Words are coming out of me. They must go somewhere. So I'm going to issue a plea in the hope that it reaches you. Please, I would really appreciate it if one of you could die tonight. Preferably all of you. I'm not choosing favourites. If you're feeling a bit peaky and are on the fence, just go with it. The dying bit isn't so bad, I swear. If I can do it, anyone can. And you have to go sometime, so join me. We could talk, form a little community group, like the ones they have here on Wednesdays. Seriously, think it over before you leave tonight. Because trust me, you don't want to risk going through this alone. I've spent decades trapped here now. And in all those years of listening and reading over people's shoulders, I reckon I've learned every word in the English language. And I can assure you, there's not a single one more terrifying than forever.
The Only was written and read by Adam Farrar with music by Oscilloscope. Ghosts at the Old Library is produced by Levenshulme Old Library in collaboration with All FM with support from Arts Council England.